Hey, everybody, and welcome to Common Good Conversations, a podcast working to create deeper narratives at the intersection of faith, politics, and social issues for the common good in West Michigan. My name is Nick Brock. I'm the executive director for Vote Common Good West Michigan, and co-hosting the program with me is Shawn Skinner.
Good
And as
morning.
always, we go, Shawn. How are you doing this morning?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. Got everything together a little bit better than I did earlier this morning, so I'm feeling proud about that. Yeah.
Yeah, you were having some problems getting into the studio, and then even when you got into the studio, managing your microphone. But everything's all
Yep.
good now.
Gravity got me earlier, but we're all set now.
Gravity got you. All right, I've got my cup of coffee. What are you drinking? Is that mud water?
No, this is just an iced coffee that I had the wife bring down to me. I sent her a text and said, "Hey, give me a coffee."
Nice.
Whoosh.
Okay. Yeah, we need what we got to have to get the morning going.
Yep.
Shawn, this morning we have with us a special guest, Matthew Monk Matthaeus Duncan. Now he is the co-founder and vice president of the Hip Hop Association of Advancement and Education in Grand Rapids. So we want to welcome Monk to the program. Monk, welcome.
Morning, sir.
Peace and blessings. Glad to be here. Thank you guys for allowing me to be on the show.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Monk, we want to talk about your work, the nonprofit that you do, and I'll give a little bio here on what that work is. So, the Hip Hop Association of Advancement and Education connects and supports hip hop scholars, educators, advocates, and practitioners who use hip hop to empower their communities. Also provides a platform for scholars, educators, advocates, and practitioners to collaborate on local and global initiatives, publications, and artistic projects, and provides tangible and informational support to individuals, organizations, and institutions. So, Monk, my first question is why hip hop? Why use hip hop as a vehicle to meet your objectives in the community?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. And since since from where you just read that last stuff, there is actually the question, why is hip hop? Right below it. So
Hmm.
I'm just going to read directly off of there because I wrote this myself, and this is exactly how I feel. So I'm going to
All
read it
right, so
straight to you.
I just read from what you read, and then you're going to read what you read.
Yeah. Since we're reading directly from the website at this moment, which I think is great. There's a lot of great stuff on there, but hip hop culture is powerful. It's influenced nearly all aspects of entertainment, even transcending urban communities, and is arguably the most influential youth culture on planet Earth. Hip hop's more than music, body movement, visual stimulation, fashion, or attitude. Hip hop is an evolving cultural phenomenon that's here to stay and here to influence. Hip hop is the voice of the past, the present, and future generations. That's what I have on the site there. And hip hop is, for me, hip hop is such an inviting, universal culture. And I like to focus on the word culture. People think that hip hop is music, it's rap music, and that's just not the case. Rap music is a piece of this enormous culture with all this influence and power and creativity and intersectionality and just connection and unity built into it. Rap's just a piece of that. So that's why hip hop. As I've grown up in the culture since a pretty young age. Since my almost teen years, I was really getting into rap music in particular. Right in Grand Rapids, that's what we had. We had rap music. We didn't have a whole lot of the other stuff when you were a kid. Um, but as I've grown, as I've traveled around, as I've lived in different cities, as I've experienced different people doing different aspects of the culture, different aspects of the culture, it just impacted me in a way that it just became like a part of my identity to the point where, who am I? Hip hop is definitely a significant chunk, maybe almost half of who I am, or even, we're getting into that range of like 50% of just who I am as a person. Hip hop is like part of that, it's worldview stuff. So that's why I'm involved in hip hop, and that's why I helped to co-found the Hip Hop Association of Advancement in Education. I mean, it goes a little deeper than that. We can get into some of that stuff, but foundationally, it's essentially it's improved my life. in so many ways, and it's allowed me to be able to do things like this with you. It's given me an enormous network, a global network of people that I consider to be family, from all different walks of life. So that's why. That's why.
Yeah. What was the hook for you, Monk? You know, you mentioned that growing up you were bumping into this hip hop culture and it really taking effect on you. Like what was it for you? Was it maybe the dress, the music? How did you get hooked into it and say like, yeah, this is me, and now, it's 50% of who I am or my worldview?
Yeah. Um, I think like most people, I mean, definitely, I think like most people in Michigan, especially West Michigan, um, the music first caught my attention. I remember first hearing rap music in driveways while I was playing basketball with the neighborhood kids, and depending on whose driveway we were in, uh, I was more or less shocked at what I heard. you know, and it was just like a complete, what's going on right now, what's happening, and I was just drawn into this curious music, and the fact that in my neighborhood, in my neighborhood, I was one of two white kids that basically was hanging out with neighborhood kids. So it was like there was probably 7 or 8 of us that were consistently hanging out, and two of us were white. So just I was already kind of as a young kid, moved into a different space that I was unfamiliar with at first, right, growing up. I went to a small parochial school, a Lutheran school. I believe there were, the entire time I was there, from kindergarten to 8th grade, I believe there were 3 non-white students that I can remember in the entire experience of school. Maybe 4, maybe 4. I'm forgetting one young lady. So my school experience and my neighborhood experience were very different, and my kind of cultural exposure as a kid in home and in school was very different than what I experienced when I hung out with my friends in the neighborhood. So I was drawn to the music and what was being, said in the music, and then the fact that I was welcomed into like my neighborhood, you know, group of friends to the level that I was, and then the music and really just became such a big part of how we interacted with each other and how we understood each other, even to some extent. I mean, we just started doing things and copying things, and just as kids, right? You're like, this is cool, and we just started all gelling towards the same identity, I think, at a young age. And so that's what brought me in. It was kind of the, whoa, what is this aspect at first, right? With the music when it first came out, which I think a lot of people experienced, from all different cultures, experienced that when hip hop was really coming through. It was like, man, what is this new thing? It wasn't on the radio. You had to know somebody, you know. And then when you heard it, it was like you could hear a variation of lyrics and content and sounds and beats and stuff. Again, not on the radio, just stuff that you had to hear in the underground, so to speak. And so to be welcomed into that culture at a young age, I mean, I was just hooked, man. I felt like this is cool. This is where I should be, you know?
Yeah. Talk a little bit more about that, being welcomed into that culture and that community. Coming from your predominantly white school system, and perhaps your own individual family, like the nuclear family, not the nuclear family, but the family that you grew up with. Uh,
hmm
how did you receive any backlash, or was there confusion about, okay, I'm confused about this culture over here, maybe we shouldn't do that? How did that work out for you?
Yeah, it's been, I mean, even to this day, I mean, there's a lot of conflict, of being a white hip hop head, especially at the level that I'm at, with the experiences I've had, with the connections I have, and with the impact that I'm able to create just based on time, just based on, I've spent a lot of time in the culture. As a younger kid, definitely as a white kid in the 80s, I mean, I want to date myself too. I'm probably about, I don't know how old you guys are. I don't want to make a judgment
Oh, I'm
call,
a
but
white
back
kid
in the,
from the 80s. Yeah, that's for sure.
yeah,
I think we both
white,
are, Sean, too.
Yeah, pretty
yeah,
close,
white,
pretty
white
close.
kid from the 80s, like from the early 80s too, like early 80s. Um, it definitely, because hip hop, the music aspect, I mean, remember, we're in Grand Rapids, Michigan, so we didn't see all the things that were happening that actually happened culturally in New York City. And then as it proliferated, when it got to us, I mean, it's just the music. That's all we were really like hearing and feeling and were exposed to. There's very little of the other elements really happening visibly that I can remember
Yeah.
here. Okay, I'm sure there's people that are going to say, "Monk, your history is all wrong. Grand Rapids, this and that." Trust me. Somebody's watching this right now with a target on my head just so they can talk some
And
trash
we
about
hope
me.
somebody's watching this or listening.
Yeah.
Well, the
Even if
minute
it's a
That's
somebody
okay.
troll.
hears me, here's what I'm saying, they're going to go to social media and they're going to, "Monk got this wrong. He didn't," because that's the world we live in now. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the backlash, I mean, it was just confusion. My parents didn't quite get it. Um, uh, my pops came along relatively quick. I'd say he's a he's just kind of that kind of guy. He ended up being like a father figure to a lot of my friends. Everybody to this day is always like, "How's your dad, man? What's wrong with your dad?" He was just that guy. He was just there with the kids. My mom took her a lot longer to understand what was going on. And she still has no idea what I do with myself and why I am so ingrained in hip
You
hop
got to
culture.
find
She just
yourself
doesn't
a real
understand
job.
it. She doesn't get it, but I love my mom to death. She's an amazing woman. Um, but I can't say that too many of my friends as a kid were like giving me any kind of weird conflictual stuff going on around hip hop, me being white. I was told that it was okay for me to do and say things that are not okay. Okay, by my friends, by the way, at
Uh-huh.
a young age, that I was smart enough to know, no, I can't say that. No, no, I cannot because I'm a white kid. No, it's okay. You cool. I'm like, no, no.
Uh-huh.
Thankfully, I was smart enough to know that. Um, but but so I was brought in, pretty deep into the family as a kid. Now, where things got a little weird is when I left Grand Rapids um, in 2002 to move to Miami, Florida. Um, Basic reason why that was the case or why I made that move is because my wife is an African American woman. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman, and she's always been a beautiful, beautiful woman. And so our relationship in Grand Rapids was extremely weird to people in 1995, 6, 7, 8. It was 97, and on, right?
Mm-hmm.
We still were way far behind on seeing a white man with a black woman, and in particular, an extremely beautiful black woman. So it caused a lot of conflict with a lot of people here. So I left. My wife was in college. I told her, I said, I'm getting out of Grand Rapids. Moved to Miami. She moved down the following year. And then once I got into that scene down there, immediately I was like trying to figure out how do I get into this scene, like, man, look at this amazing graffiti everywhere, there's so much culture, so much going on in Miami. It's like we used to call it down there, we call Miami the capital of the Americas, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
everything just kind of comes to bubbles up right down there. So much happens in Miami, Florida. Being down there, though, I saw hip hop. I got deep into it fairly quickly. I'm still very connected to folks down in Miami to this day, particular the breaking community. But I saw, I'm sorry for the coughs, got a little tickle here. I
That's all right. They're
saw,
allowed.
they're allowed, it's that time of year. But
Yep.
I saw so many different people in Miami who looked different. I mean, that's the thing, is everybody in Miami looks different. Now, who they are, where they're from, what language they speak, you have no idea until you actually walk up to them and engage. But everybody looks very, very different. Couples look very, very different, right? A white skinned male with a dark skinned female in Miami, Florida is all over the place. It's just a normal way of living. So immediately I kind of lost some of that racial conscious like conflict stuff. I didn't like it, just wasn't as prevalent down there. And the hip hop community was exactly the same. The hip hop community was extremely diverse. Everybody looked different. Everybody was doing everything from graffiti to breaking to graffiti writing, breaking, DJing, all different types of DJing, turntable tricks, and all the stuff that I love to do now. MCing, the beat making. You had the education. You had hip hop nonprofits working in the community. You had hip hop ministries. You had Nation of Islam involved in the hip hop community. You had breaking organizations. I mean, you just had all this stuff going on, and everybody looked different. Was from different parts of the country, and to some extent, some of parts of the world. And so I lost sight of that part of hip hop. Flash forward, I moved to back to Grand Rapids in 2013 with my wife. Then, now we got married by then, and my wife I actually knew in high school. I went to high school with her at Ottawa Hills, so we go way back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when we got back to Grand Rapids, we were told before we moved back, Grand Rapids is a lot different than when you left. There's a lot more going on. It's Beer City and all these things, right? Oh, there's more culture. So we thought, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to go back, and all the stuff that we had learned down there. For me, hip hop was like my thing. I really got deep into hip hop in Miami culturally. I got down. I was brought into a legendary crew called Plan Beats Crew. Uh, based out of Miami, and I am a official member of Plan Beats Crew, which is an amazing honor for me. Um, and so come back, same thing. Immediately jump back into the scene. I just start asking people, "Yo, who do I need to know? Where do I need to go? It's been a while. Like who's still rapping? Who are the guys from back in the day are still doing it?" And was pretty quickly kind of plugged in because people still, people knew me. I still stayed in contact with a lot of the MCs in particular up here and some of the DJs. So jump right back into it. But I think because of the nature of our city in Grand Rapids and how there's a lot of gatekeepers here and there's a lot of um, race problems in Grand Rapids, there's a lot of tension, always has been, and I feel like it's getting worse. Um, while the hip hop community, a lot of the folks I knew welcomed me right back in. Some of the folks who didn't know me or know me well, just were like, "Who is this guy?" I think they saw me not many. There weren't that many of them, but the few I think saw me as just a threat for some reason. Even though I came in as like, "Hey, let's work together. Let's build." I mean, that's initially how I
Mm-hmm.
walked right in the door. I invited some folks to my home. Had a big meeting in my home. I think there's maybe like eight or nine of us in my basement in the studio I'm in now, and just said, "Hey, I'm back. This is the stuff I was working on and was a part of in Miami, with some hip hop nonprofits, and I was working with youth, and I had become a DJ, not just an MC and a producer, all these things." And most of the folks in that meeting, we were like, "Yo, let's do it, let's work," But there were a few folks who were not too excited about that, I guess. And so when I got back into town, and really since I've been back, it's been pretty good. I mean, I've been able to do a lot of stuff, but I still have a few folks that just um, can't accept that a white dude, I guess, has the type of connections and experiences that I have. They just can't accept that, and hopefully that stuff will change at some point. But I just think where we're at in the nature of our world right now, hip hop can be a touchy subject for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they feel like it's their identity as well. And so there is some conflict out there, I feel like, and I think now more than ever, believe it or not, which is unfortunate in general. But yeah, man, that's a really long answer to your question.
No, that's all right. It's really, insightful here just to hear you talk about, your relation with hip hop and the community and, supposed gatekeepers. So, what I'm really picking up from this is not only, is your nonprofit work about, using hip hop to teach, but, you're naturally bumping into this, these barriers of, race, and working to go beyond that, to break down these walls, for lack of a better term, right here in Grand Rapids, experiencing it with, you and your wife having, difficulties early on in Grand Rapids, moving out, finding a more welcoming space, then coming back and then still experiencing that to some degree. There's this racial tension that you mentioned. So that's really, I did not expect to, hear that from you, that it was still kind of just like this bubbling up thing for you and your work.
Yeah, it's, and I don't want to make it sound like it's, people are always coming at me. That's not true. But there's
Hmm.
there's some consistencies that just don't go away, and I just don't think they'll ever go away. Certain individuals and just certain sectors of the community are there's just a lot of conflict in certain small pockets. For
Sure.
the grandiose scheme, things are have been really really have gone very well, in proliferating hip hop culture in the area. But to talk a little bit about the organization, so the association, so I want to make this kind of clear too. So there's a lot that you read, right? When you read that mission statement and vision, I mean, there's just so many aspects of what it sounds like we do, and we do. But I want to kind of explain how that works, how that happens, and where that happens, because not everything happens here. Not everything happens in West Michigan. So our big crowning achievement as an organization thus far, and we've been around, I believe it's like maybe 4.5 years now. I'd have to look at the exact date when we got our our documents there, and our crowning achievement thus far has been the Global Conference on Hip Hop Education,
Hmm.
which is next. It's actually our next one. The third one is next week. It's in Long Beach, California, at California State Long Beach. It's a hybrid conference. It's in person and virtual. So I can send you info on that if any of your listeners were interested in
No,
participating.
yeah. Talk about that a little bit more. So I was looking at that, and as I was looking through the program or the itinerary, I noticed that you are giving, excuse me, a couple of presentations, and the
Yeah,
presentation on this larger theme of quote putting the global and global conference hip hop education, and then you speaking about the Zulu Rima initiative, and then talking about Afghanistan breakers. So, let's talk about that for a little bit. Like, what is Zulu Rema, if I'm even pronouncing that right, and
yep,
and what is this topic on breakdancing in Afghanistan?
yeah. So sure, that's kind of where I was going. What I was talking about. So the conference, and that's our crowning achievement. And the conference is a global conference, right? So the first 2 years were just virtual. We had folks from all over the world participating. Many institutions around the world, not just in the U.S., presenting. And so this year for the conference, this is our first time to actually be virtual because we actually started right around the time of COVID. Oh, excuse me, in person, not virtual. During this time period, these last 3 years, once we came to existence, because our board is all over the country. I mean, people just start the flooding of the floodgates open, and people are like, "You're an association, hip hop association. We need help with this. We need help with this. We need money with this." I mean, they just started flooding us with requests, and we're like, "Wow, we just opened up our doors, and we don't even have real doors. They're hypothetical doors." And you know, we live in different parts of the country, and we have no money, and we're just trying to figure out how to make this enormous vision and mission and vision happen. But because we love this stuff and we really take this very seriously, we were like, how can we find ways to support folks right away outside of the idea of this conference? Because we always knew we could do the conference. That was kind of where we started. We did the conference, and ever since then, it's been really going well, the conference. But initially, the Zulu Rema presentation is on this young man. His name is Amr Gasmi. He's from Tunisia, and he is a bilateral below knee amputee. He was born with all his limbs functioning properly. He got sick when he was maybe around two, I believe he said, 2 or 3. And then due to some circulation issues with the condition that he had, that the doctors there were not able to diagnose properly, he ended up having to have both of his limbs amputated below the knee. So he's managed really well. He ended up as a young teen, like seeing breaking on TVs and stuff, and he just started doing his own style of breaking without you know lower limbs, and he created his own style, and it was really really cool to see. Right, the Guardian did a story on him. And then the BBC, not the BBC, the Guardian did a story on him, and he just started getting, like, in the breaking community internationally, started taking notice of Zulu Rama. So then he was brought in God bless Cross One from Freestyle Session. He was told about his story. He saw it. He was moved by Zulu Rema, and he helped him get his first pair of like U.S. made quality prosthetic legs. That was maybe like 8 years ago or so. And so he got them made in New York City. So that was great. Great experience. Some videos on that. I can send you some videos on that. Great videos too. Great recaps of that experience with Cross One. And then a few years ago, Cross One reached out to us and said, "Hey, Zulu Rama hit me up, and he needs new limbs." And he's like, I can do it, but he's like, I feel like because I already asked a few years ago from the breaking community to help support this initiative, that me asking again, I may not be the best person to do it. Maybe you guys would be a better organization to make the ask this time. And so I said, sure, yeah, we can do that. Just so happened at the time I worked in the field of orthotics and prosthetics.
Okay.
I up until a year and a half ago, I was a clinician. I was an orthotist and a prosthetic resident. I was still working on some exams for prosthetics. So I was I'd been working in that field I worked in that field for about 25 years. So I was very familiar with it. Now I had connections in the field. So I said, yeah, absolutely. We're going to do this initiative. So essentially we brought him to Grand Rapids last year at the company I used to work for called Hanger Clinic. We made him new legs. He came and did some workshops with youth in Lansing with All the Above Hip Hop Academy, and some workshops here in town at 616 Technique, and just had a great experience. We really got to know him really well. And then, he went on back to Tunisia. So that's that experience. And this presentation is just a quick, short 15-minute presentation. I'm going to just show some photos and kind of talk about that whole experience with him. The other one, the Afghan breakers. Wow. I'm going to try to cram this this is like a 5-hour conversation. So I'm going to try to cram this into a very short period of time.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. So we got contact from a young man named Sajjad Talmurian, aka Makhloop. And he, in Afghanistan, there was a story that was done by the BBC on them, on this group of Afghan breakers who was doing this amazing work of teaching young Afghan girls how to break, or this young girl in particular. They did a story on them. Probably not a good idea, probably not very responsible by the BBC to do that, because it just put a huge, spotlight on them in Afghanistan, and made them a target.
Right,
So,
because like culturally, that is not an acceptable practice, correct?
because
In
culturally,
Afghanistan.
yeah, well, I would say not necessarily culturally, but more so from the religious standpoint. You're not allowed to do that from the extremist Islamic perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there were eyes on them after this article, and there was a assassination attempt on their entire crew. Basically, they were during their one of their sessions working with the crew. A young man comes in and says, "Hey, they never met him before. I want to learn how to break." They're like, "Oh yeah, of course, come on in. We want to teach you how to break." Start teaching them how to break, and then a few weeks or a month, or I'm not sure how long it was. After that, two more young men come in and say, "Hey, we're friends of this other guy. We want to also learn how to break." And when that happened, that almost immediately after those guys came in and started talking to him, the Afghan security forces raided the place, had everybody down at gunpoint, and basically pulled the breakers out, their crew out, and just said, Superior's crew was the name of their crew, said, "Hey, these guys have been watching you for however long. We've been watching them. They were planning to bomb this place today and kill everybody. So we just watched them, and we got them." And so they're like, "Oh wow," and basically they told them, "You guys need to go underground. You need to stop doing this. If you're gonna do it in your house. Like if you want to live, like you basically need to stop doing this." This is
Mm-hmm.
before the Afghan takeover, or the Taliban takeover of
Okay.
Afghanistan. This is like a couple years before. So at that time was when he reached out to us, told us the story, and said, "Hey, and this is why hip hop is so powerful. Okay, you guys, this is gonna blow your mind.
Yeah, give it to us.
This still blows my mind." So Jai's like, "Hey, we need your help." We're like, "Wow, yeah, you need some help. How can we help you?" He's like, "We just want a safe place to keep breaking. I said, well, but if you keep breaking, you guys could be killed. And he said, no, you don't understand. We just want to break. We just want to be hip hop. I said, but your life is at risk, man. Like, why would you risk your life and your family's life and all this for hip hop? He's like, because if we don't do it, there will be no hip hop in Afghanistan. And he's like, and it needs to be here.
Mm-hmm.
So to him, it was more important to bring hip hop culture to his country and his community than even his own life. You know, um, I
That's
still,
yeah.
it
Go.
still blows my mind. You know,
Yeah, how do you feel that that is that come that came to be for that individual? I mean, we're with hip hop being such a important thing that he needs it. Like, what is that draw for him, or what is that draw? Yeah, let's just stick with just him. What was that just draw for him? What do you think motivated him to you know uh, put aside, death in
yeah,
order to bring hip hop and keep hip hop in Afghanistan. Like, that's crazy to a certain degree.
yeah. I don't want to speak for Sajad. I don't think that I would do it justice, but I would just say that from some of the conversations that we've had, and one in particular conversation that just that we actually had with him and some students at Youth Build, actually in Grand Rapids. He did a Zoom call with us one day. He just talked about certain types of hip hop. Like, he made the distinction to these young people about basically hip hop culture can uplift you. It can bring you up, or it can destroy you. He kind of phrased it in this like diametrically opposed situation of good and bad, right? And he said he kind of told him, like, you have a choice. Like, you can go down this road of like destructive, art and messaging and stuff, or you can use it in this other way to tell stories that inspire people and change like your surroundings. Because they saw themselves, I believe, again, I'm putting words into their mouth, but this is just from conversations. I do believe that this is probably how they feel. They felt like they were changing their community. Like, they just felt like they were making it better. And again, I don't know what it's like to live in Kabul, where they lived, but obviously that was very important to him to make these type of changes. So there was maybe a need for that, he felt. So it was that powerful to him. And just the fact that he was able to tell these young people this and say, you have a choice. Like, he was telling them, like, we could have gone this way, left field with it, but we decided to go this way with it. And now it's changed our lives. Whereas it could have changed our lives maybe in a negative way. It's changed our lives in a positive ways. And he just saw power. He saw the power in it.
Yeah, yeah. I want to take that story then and segue to this idea of hip hop and making things better, and the power for what it can do in a community and perhaps a country. To what you've done this past summer with the One Piece Hip Hop Festival. So the One Piece Hip Hop, or the One Piece Festival, was a one day all ages shared experience designed to advance hip hop's core principles of peace, unity, love, and having fun. And I was at the festival for one day, and you got people doing graffiti art on large panels of wood, just amazing things. You've got artists rapping it on a stage. You got a
Yeah.
basketball tournament going on for youth. You got a DJ and break dancers going on. Tell us about why you put that festival together and what you hope to do with it.
Yeah, so that festival is the combined brainchild of myself and Edwin Anderson, who is an amazing visual artist here in Grand Rapids and a huge hip hop advocate. So the whole idea behind One Piece was like, okay, so we were in COVID, you're just isolated in your house, and Edwin hits me up and he's like, hey man, I got this crazy idea. You want to hear it? I'm like, sure. He's like, I want to do this enormous hip hop festival where we do all these things, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what do you know about hip hop, man? He's like, well, I know you can teach me more about it. I'm just like, I'll call you back. I'll think about it. It's basically just kind of like, okay, thanks a lot for the call. Like 5 minutes later, I was like, all right, let's do it. Sounds good to me. And because it only took me 5 minutes to like put the dots together, you know. And then we just started developing this concept. And the whole idea of One Piece was, you know, again, we were in this isolated state in COVID, and we knew the power of hip hop culture. I mean, we just know how powerful it can be to strengthen communities, just because we just know it, we live it. And then this whole idea of health, right? Health and wellness was a big deal. So we're like, okay, the fifth element of hip hop is knowledge. And if you break it down even further, it's knowledge, wisdom, and overstanding. That's a word we can have. We can have a whole talk on overstanding. But and we're like, so if we bring in the element of raising awareness for health and wellness, supporting health and wellness in the community, that really truly embodies the fifth element of hip hop culture. And then health is lots of different domains of health, right? There's like physical health, there's mental health, but there's also economic health, there's community health, you know what I'm saying, relationships, networking. So we're like, so we'll focus on physical and mental health as well through, we brought sports into it. So we combined hip hop with athletics, even though breaking, of course, is athletics too. But then we thought, well, we're going to bring other aspects of the domains of health into it. And that's why we have so many vendors, and why we're very kind of intentional about the vendors that we've always had at One Piece, and even the sponsors as much as we can, right? So to us, we just saw it as, this is an opportunity for us to use this culture that we know is, people love hip hop, and they don't know they love hip hop culture until they come to something like One Piece, because most people's view of hip hop is rap music. A lot of times it's not quality rap music, or it's radio rap music, which is actually not rap music, it's pop music, or what have you, you know. So there's this real negative perspective of what hip hop is. And we said, we know how great it is. So we're going to create this huge festival that has all these different elements that, even if you're like, I don't like rap music, but live graffiti, I go watch somebody paint for a little while. Sounds kind of cool. You show up, you're like, whoa, this is not what I thought. This
Yeah.
is really good rap music. These guys are talking about something important. Oh my gosh, there's kids spinning on their heads, and they're not just spinning on their heads, they're actually really good at spinning on their heads, and they're winning money doing it. Oh, look over here, we have we have these DJs that are using these like old archaic pieces of equipment called turntables, and they're scratching records, and they're doing tricks that we thought people stopped doing, or that we haven't heard on a record in 20 years. And then they got kids playing basketball over here. We got soccer over here. All these vendors are giving away stuff. We have healthy food options. We have vegan options. We have vegetarian options. We also have barbecue if you want. Whatever you want, we got options for you. And I'll tell you something about One Piece. I mean, it's been an amazing experience. It's always worked out well. I mean, there's never been like any problems. And I think that's the fact that it's always been such a welcoming, peaceful environment. Never any conflict. Never had any issues with any participants, any attendees. There's no fights, none of that stuff. Things that a lot of times get associated with the word hip hop. There's a negative connotation for a lot of people, not for everybody, but for a lot of people. When you hear that and they associate hip hop with drugs or violence or fighting or cursing, or just they associate it with these things. You come to hip hop or to the One Piece Hip Hop Festival, and you experience, and hopefully, I mean, I know I did, and people tell me they have experienced this extremely unifying, welcoming, friendly environment that people of all races, cultures, creeds, religions can come to and just high five each other and be like, "This is good. I'm having a good time."
Yeah. It
So I
was
feel like
it
we
was a good
accomplished what we're
time.
trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Monk, we got like 2 minutes here. I
Okay.
want to give our listener and even us some recommendations for how to you know tap into the power of hip hop. You got like all right, here are some artists you should listen to, or here are some places you should go.
I mentioned some underground
Yeah.
artists that you wouldn't particularly run across, or maybe local artists.
Yeah, leave us with a few golden nuggets here before we're out.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of them. So okay, so there's a record label I think you should check out. It's called Elect. ILLECT. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Elect is the record label. I anybody just pick an artist and start listening to them. I think that you really like them. There are two artists in Lansing. They're not from Lansing, but they live in Lansing now. There's an organization called All of the Above Hip Hop Academy, based out of Lansing. I worked with them in depth. I was one of their founding board members when they first became a nonprofit. Their founder and president, Ozay Moore, Ozay Moore, Moore, is an amazing international recording artist. He's been around for many, many years doing his thing. And there's another artist and another gentleman there. His name is, it goes by Sareem Poems. So it's Sareem Poems. Both of those guys are on Elect. And there's another artist named James Garden, Gardin, in Lansing as well. They're all on Elect. Jose is from Seattle. Solo or Sareem is from LA, and James is from Michigan. So those three, and that record label for sure. Technique Academy. Make sure you support Technique Academy's breaking initiatives here in the town. We're trying to build up the graffiti scene a little bit, so stay tuned. But H-Town Inc. in Holland, you got Chris Garcia. He is like the man, graffiti man. You got Smack over there too in Holland. So there's some great stuff. Spies is in Lansing. I mean, there's a lot, man. We could do this all day. So I'm gonna send you a list of people. I'm gonna email you. How about that?
There we go.
Do send me a list of all these great things. Excuse me. And then it sounds like Shawn and I are gonna have to come up with better names for ourselves. So not just Nick and Shawn, but I mean, Monk, your real name is not Monk, it's Matthew, right? Yeah. And so we're gonna have something. You send us something so we can participate in that.
There you go.
All right, man. Thanks for your time this morning. We appreciate you sharing about the work of your nonprofit and sharing about hip hop culture and what you're trying to do here in West Michigan.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it, guys.
You got it, Monk. You can click out of this meeting, and Shawn and I are going to wrap this up.
All right. Thanks, man.
Hip hop. I'm gonna check those things out.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
All the Above Hip Hop Academy. And I seriously want to name funny story. So when I was at the One Piece Hip Hop Festival with Monk, as I went up to him and said, "Hey Monk, what's going on?" And I said, "I want to get a few photos here." So we went up on the stage. And they got the banner right there. So I wanted the banner in the back. And then, we took a few pictures. Now I'm just like standing straight up smiling, and he's doing like a pose. He's got like lean. He's got the swag going on, and he's got his arms or something like this, with the little snarl. We did a couple of those, and I was like, man, I feel like I need to do a pose or something. I feel like I need to get into this picture. He's like, yeah, come on. So, I then got into, my pose and, kind of like a better picture. So that's what I learned, from the hip hop festival. So you got to
learn to pose.
Yeah, I learned to pose, and you got to snarl or give a face when you're taking a picture, and have a better nickname.
Go. Yeah.
All right. Anything from you? A little takeaway before we wrap up.
Oh, I thought it was pretty interesting. I could relate a little bit with him on the music side of things. I do listen to hip hop, but I wouldn't consider, myself in hip hop or anything like that. But I do play guitar. I'm completely I'm a complete metalhead. So it looks like I just lost everything. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I got you.
Okay, hold on. Okay, I don't know why the whole screen just swooped over to the right, and all of a sudden I'm looking at it some other screen. But feeling like a little bit of a outcast and throughout high school and stuff, and then learning how to play guitar, and then becoming part of that music scene in my school at the time, and metal and everything, kind of felt like it gave me a lane, a place to be, a purpose, type thing. Mm-hmm. So when he's talking about hip hop, drawing him that way, I feel like I could relate with him in that, in that aspect,
Yeah, music's a powerful thing, whether it's, hip hop. Obviously, hip hop has a special place for Monk, and it's entrenched deep. But, music just in general takes on this mysterious hold of people, and it can just speak to us in different ways that, other forms of the written word can't. So,
Absolutely.
all right. Well, that's a wrap for today, friends. This is the Common Good Conversations podcast. You can find our episodes dropped weekly at Spotify or iTunes, and also on our Buzzsprout feed, which is linked on our website at Vote Common Good West Michigan, and the Facebook page, which is Vote Common Good West Michigan -primary. So that is a wrap for today. If you have any questions or comments, or would love for us to, interview a different guest, or if you have ideas for guests, send them our way, and we'd be glad to do our best to talk to those folks. Parting words, Shawn.
Music rules.
Music rules, as the man who's wearing the Johnny Cash T-shirt. Very
Darn
true.
Skippy.
All right, y'all. We'll see you later. Peace.